Michelo has betrayed Chavismo. He's attacking them, masks off. Look, Nicolas Maduro was overthrown in a coup. He was handed over on a silver platter and nobody did anything. Let's listen to him.
I enlisted to fight. On January 3rd, I called. Do you know what they told me? No, don't do anything. Those helicopters are ours. Relax, nothing happened. At 5 in the morning, an Argentine told me Maduro has been kidnapped. People in Venezuela didn't know anything. No one acted since the order was to do nothing. Those helicopters were ours. The next day, oh, we made a mistake. They took them to North America. Can you believe it? But don't do anything. We're going to hand everything over and let it go. The next day went by. The embassy, as if nothing happened, they opened the embassy. It filled up with Americans. Containers keep arriving. Americans keep coming. Isn't it like the coup against Hugo Chavez? In 2002, his own guard handed him over. And it's said that the same thing happened with Maduro. His own guard killed the Cubans and took Maduro to North America. They served him up on a silver platter, the Chinese. Because what happened to Chavez was a conspiracy between his own guard and powerful people. I think it's the same for Maduro.
Look, obviously people within Chavismo turned Nicolas Maduro in. I think we all agree on that, right? Now, Michelo, you wouldn't have been able to do anything. That thing about, oh, I was ready to fight. Please, who were you going to fight against? Who were you going to go up against? Please, let's not be ridiculous. That's the first point. Second point, and I think this one is very important. Until a few days ago, Michelo, you were fighting for Chavismo. You were supporting Chavismo until just a few days ago. And suddenly you took a radical turn. In your speech, you started attacking them. How curious, isn't it? That this coincided with the moment when Delcy Rodriguez and Chavismo decided to stop funding you. To stop supporting you financially. How curious that this happened to coincide with the moment when you had to give up your luxury apartment in Caracas, Venezuela. How curious, isn't it? At the very least, I find the timing quite convenient.
Maduro hasn't communicated, while Chavez managed to write a brief letter. Have you ever been in prison? I have. First, they cut off all communication. No cell phone, nothing. Then they mess with your mind, making you feel like nobody cares and everyone's happy without you. Bam, bam, bam. I think Maduro and Syria are cut off from communication. What he posted on Twitter is just nonsense. What Maduro told me, that's just nonsense to fool them so they let themselves get robbed of everything. Maduro used to say Americans won't steal from us and that we weren't going to fight and who knows what else. He wanted peace and everything, but...
Maduro, let's see, guys. Maduro made a bet, right? The guy bet that Donald Trump wouldn't dare, and he was wrong. And that's why now he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Just imagine that. But Nicolas Maduro was given the chance. And now there's also something very important. Nicolas Maduro was no saint. He was a delinquent. He was a criminal. A guy who sank Venezuela like never before in its history.
I assure you that no decent Venezuelan wants this. And the saddest thing is that the J have divided you, because today the J say Happy Passover. Pesach, is that how you say it? And they control everything. If you vote for that crazy woman, that sellout, she'll just give everything to the Americans and let it go. What's the other option? Tactically, it's the same. Wake up, they screwed you over, Venezuelans. They screwed you over.
I completely agree with you, Michelo. Both Nicolas Maduro and the criminal delinquent coup leader Hugo Chavez screwed over Venezuela. They destroyed the country like never before in its history. Criminals, delinquents who got rich at the expense of the Venezuelan people. Very sad, isn't it?
All 38 million have to unite. Literally unite. I'm not calling for surprise or rebellion or anything. Wake up, because as Christians, the truth sets us free. And the only truth is that the path you choose today leads to losing everything. And you are millionaires. You have a beautiful country with resources,
which was destroyed by your Nicolas Maduro and Hugo Chavez, Michelo. They sank the country.
That's why every country wants to come here. If brothers fight, outsiders will devour them.
Yes, just like China, Turkey, Iran, Russia, North Korea, and Cuba lived off Venezuela's resources for decades.
To me, it's really unfortunate today. What I'm seeing honestly disgusts me.
Let's continue with this guy.
Look, January 3rd, Juan, they're attacking Caracas. Trump says they've kidnapped Maduro. I found out from an Argentine, Congressman Juan Marino. Here they told me no, the helicopters are ours, nothing's going on, nobody do anything. Let him be taken away quietly like a delivery.
But let's see, Michelo, what would you have done? I mean, that's my question. Please. I mean, now Michelo is saying I didn't fight because they asked me not to. Please, Michelo.
When Nicholas gets out, let him see this video.
When Nicholas gets out, never. He will never get out. Never. Gah.
I was going to fight for you, Nicholas.
Please, Michelo, not even you believe that. Unbelievable.
For Venezuela, but certain people said that those helicopters that took you were Venezuelan. They're the same ones who say, as a tactic, you have to lick the boots of the murderous looters of Venezuela. You have to be very smart to know that's not a tactic. Submission, but well, there are so many strange things. Unbelievable.
Look, from my point of view, the strangest thing, Michelo, is your change in your rhetoric. Last minute, right when Elsie Rodriguez decided, well, to take your money away. Cut off your funding. How curious, isn't it?
Keep in mind, Michelo wasn't complicit.
Of course you were.
In this handover of this coup d'etat. Because literally, not even in Cuba do they do that. Cuba, no, it's small. It doesn't have the army that Venezuela has.
I mean, Michelo saying, no, Michelo wasn't complicit, man. It's April 30th. Well, April 29th for the followers, right? For me, it's already the 30th, but for everyone else, it's April 29th. What happened to Nicolas Maduro occurred on January 3rd. I mean, how are you going to say, oh, I came out to talk 4 months later, almost 5 months after the capture of Nicolas Maduro? Just because they took my money and that's why I wasn't part of this coup d'etat, right? Supposedly.
And they don't take Diaz-Canel because his people don't turn him in.
Oh no, they haven't taken Diaz-Canel? Because the US hasn't gone in yet. As soon as the United States sets foot in Cuba, Diaz-Canel is finished, huh? I mean, Diaz-Canel has no power at all.
Now I understand everything. Wolves in sheep's clothing, and just like they gave up their buddy Nicholas, they're going to give up everyone. They're already giving everyone up, but well, let history remember me. I wasn't silent, I didn't make my silence an accomplice.
You did, Michelo, for almost 5 months.
I wasn't an accomplice to this.
But suddenly they fired you, took your money, took your apartment. You ended up God knows where, maybe in Argentina for all I know. And now you start talking.
I'm Michelo, anti-imperialist.
Careful, because Michelo wouldn't say this if he was still in Venezuela. I think this is proof that Michelo is no longer in Venezuela. He wouldn't say this if he were still in Venezuela.
Anti-Satan Yahoo. I'm the same as when I arrived, but Venezuela seems like a different country. If it had been like this from the start...
Let's continue. Look, you're scared because you're doubting, always talking, blah, 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 blah.
Now you all look like Maria Corina, even copying her color. Next you'll be copying her slogan too, copying everything. Brothers, seriously consider it? I walk the streets alone without bodyguards. Anyone in Caracas who's seen me knows this. I walk the streets and see things getting worse and more expensive each time. A struggling Venezuelan. I noticed the Bolivar rises daily. He needs to buy medicine for his brother.
And now it's, look at this face. I mean, Michelo, what happened? You suddenly realize Venezuela is in bad shape. Man, Venezuela has been in bad shape for almost 20 years. If not, just look at the massive exodus. What, about 8 million Venezuelans have had to flee the country? What are you talking about? You're just now finding out?
Sick, his dad is sick, his mom is sick, and not the...
You're just now finding out, Michelo? 20 years late.
There isn't enough money. I speak with those people. It frustrates me because I went through this too. You don't know what happens. Need shows up.
Right, Michelo, the vast majority of good Venezuelans hate you. It's that simple and straightforward. Ah, incredible. And he keeps going. I mean, just look at that. I mean, he went all out attacking Chavismo. And here he went against Nicolas Maduro's son. Pay attention.
Is Nicolas Maduro's son lying? Why doesn't Diosdado greet him? And he looks at him like that with... Diosdado must know something that we don't, right? And also, look, right, the loyalty of Nicolasito. He's the one speaking. They sent him to talk about resuming relations with the state of Israel. Wow, right? That's crazy. I don't really know Nicolasito Maduro Guerra very well, to be honest. People who are in Venezuela tell me, is he a faithful, loyal man? What is his background? You know a tree by its fruit. I'm a Christian, and that's how I think.
Incredible. These little phrases from Michelo sometimes. Well, obviously, I'm telling you. Within Chavismo, they handed over Nicolas Maduro. They gave the United States his location. That's a reality. That happened. Now, don't get it twisted. Michelo didn't just suddenly wake up and start defending. No. Michelo lived off Chavismo for years. They cut off his funding and he came out saying all this because he's probably hurt. Because they took away his money. And because they left him in a critical situation. From my point of view, Michelo's situation is quite peculiar, since there are ongoing investigations against him in Argentina. And now suddenly they don't want him in Venezuela anymore. Where can someone like Michelo go? Where could he be right now? Maybe in Colombia, huh? I wouldn't be surprised if Michelo is hiding in Colombia. But watch out, he has a very big problem. And yes, he could be in Colombia. But who's protecting him? Gustavo Petro. Gustavo Petro will leave office in Colombia in a few months. And don't be surprised if he even ends up in jail. That's right, I wouldn't be surprised if Gustavo Petro ends up behind bars. So where does someone like Michelo end up? You see, his situation is critical. And all of this for getting involved in supporting Chavismo, blah blah blah, just imagine that. Michelo's situation is very, very critical. We'll see what ends up happening with this guy. But yes, now he's crying and saying that Chavismo betrayed Nicolas Maduro and blah blah blah, and that he's a loyal man. Just a bunch of nonsense. The reality is that Michelo is saying this because they took his money away, they cut off his funding, and he probably lost his income and the quality of life he had. That's why he's upset with Chavismo and chose to speak out. Unbelievable. But anyway guys, I'd like to know what you think about all this. We'll keep you updated. But yes, Michelo is now going all out against Chavismo, accusing them of having handed over Nicolas Maduro. And look guys, obviously Chavismo handed over Maduro. That's obvious, it's evident, we all know that. But anyway, Michelo didn't suddenly see the light, Michelo is just hurt. That's what's happening. See you next time. Bye.